we're live, and then I'm gonna start letting people in.
Okay, I need to share the screen. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. I'm really excited today to be talking to one of my own clients. And his name, oops, I just did something.
So,
Yeah. Um, um, did we start recording, Angela? I hope so. There we are, we're recording. So I want to introduce you to Ehrland Hollingsworth. And we've been working together for, I can't remember how long now, but how long? A year?
I think year, I guess, or so, or no, or a year
Yeah,
last June or something.
I can't
So
remember.
I
Yeah,
think a year and a half.
yeah, okay. And so the first question I always like to ask, this is a hard one, is when was the first time that you knew you were going to be a filmmaker?
I don't know. I guess probably like in fifth grade or something like that. It was something I guess I more or less fell into. I always wanted to be, I guess, creative or something like that. I had always acted and written when I was in second grade. I said that I had wanted to be a writer. And the story I always say is that I didn't read enough books to be a writer, but maybe I watched enough movies to be a director. So that was, yeah, I don't think there was a specific time. I always just wanted to do, that sort of thing. I guess I wanted to like make entertainment was my idea. And I guess like to me, like films were the largest form of entertainment.
Yes.
Um so that was really like what, just like led me down it. But yeah, I guess sometime probably in like high school was I really like finally decided, obviously, because I'm looking for some place to go to school. But I don't recall it being a question as to whether or not I'd go to film school. Yeah, but yeah, so there was no specific time, but maybe the fifth grade was also like when I started making like little YouTube videos with my friends. So
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. How old is fifth grade? I didn't grow up in America. I can never remember.
fifth grade is 10, 11.
Oh, that's really
Yeah,
young.
yeah, yeah, 11 or so.
That's really, really young. Yes. So you started making YouTube videos, and then when did you actually decide you were going to go to college for film?
Yeah, well, I don't really know. I guess it was when I was applying to college, but it was before that. Um, I mean, I was visiting like, film colleges, I think my freshman year of high school. So I'd pretty much decided that I guess my other option would have been to go into acting. I'd always done acting, but I had just kind of in my head written that off very quickly. I thought that was a stupid idea. Um, so yeah, that was, I guess I didn't ever, like, I never really made the decision because it was more of just like, I didn't leave the option for myself to do anything else. Um, uh, so yeah, I mean, I guess I'd say it's freshman year when I like really finally decided to go to film school. But
I didn't know that you had done so much acting. I
oh yeah,
knew that.
yeah, I'd done a lot of acting. I miss it a lot actually. It was a lot of fun. But
Really?
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea that you were so into acting that you actually thought about it as a career, even if you did write it off.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, that makes up. Now that I know that, I can't believe I didn't know that. But now that I know that, it makes a lot of sense
Hmm.
about the way you work and the way you know, you talk about your work. It does make sense. So, So where did you end up going to film school?
I went to NYU. Um, uh,
Pick it. Why did you pick NYU?
God, it was, I think, stupid reasons. Uh, I mean, I picked NYU. I mean, I guess it was like the second best film school in the country or whatever. That's like what it says on the lists. At
Uh-huh.
least I don't know what it is now. Um, uh, and my top three choices were like the top three schools, which was like, USC, Chapman, and NYU. And ultimately, I didn't get into USC or Chapman. Got waitlisted. So,
And then that
huh?
clarified everything.
Well, oh yeah, getting to NYU. Yeah, there's a you know, I also had this weird idea about like, oh, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. That like this city would somehow harden me up. I think that was a dumb way to approach it. You know, so yeah, and there was other schools like I was thinking about going to LMU. I had a very bizarre decision making process. There was this one. I got this letter from LMU to go to this Asian prospective students brunch. It was like asking me to go to a brunch with a bunch of Asian students because I'm like Asian. That it was like, I guess it was like wanting to make Asian students feel comfortable. But like, I felt very
Right,
uncomfortable
right.
getting that. I just felt weird, and I was like, you know what? I don't like LMU now. LMU has offended me. Is what I thought. I didn't go. I mean, it was a way to like easily like write off like not going to LMU. But yeah, I mean, I think if I hadn't like got that Asian students brunch card, I probably would have gone. It's one of those things that I'm like, why do you make decisions like that? That's so stupid. You know, like, it was like, about my future. And then like, I made this like really petty thing that I don't really even understand. This like petty decision. I didn't have to go to the Asian students brunch.
Right, right, right.
Um, so anyways, that's why I chose NYU.
Do you know today why it offended you?
I know. I mean, it just annoyed me. I think more than anything, I wasn't like, oh my God, like, what are they doing? It was just like, why do they think they need to do this was sort of my thing, you know? What are they trying to get out of me? The Asian students brunch. That was, yeah, I wasn't really like, no, I wasn't like, I guess, super like offended, but I was just, I rolled my eyes at it and I disrespected the institution at that point was, I think how I approached it.
Yeah.
So,
So, you and I never talked that much about your experience at NYU, but looking back on that, what were the benefits of going to film school, and what were the pros and cons? Start with the good stuff.
um, well, I guess like the big pro that they say about, film school is, yeah, or, I guess about any school, is like networking, and knowing people. Like if you put, a bunch of like the better film school kids in the country, you're probably going to get, something good out of it. So I mean, I think that's definitely a pro. I mean, living in New York, you could say, is a pro. I think it's a very bizarre place to try to make films because it's very restrictive there. It's pretty funny that there's quite a few film schools there because it's just like you can't, like, are you gonna shoot in an apartment building? Well, it's like there's no places accessible. You can't like shoot in parks. Like places don't really want you filming there. You can't get equipment anywhere in the city. It's so hard to move equipment around. It's just a very strange place to want to be shooting, and you can't like shoot on the street, unless you have like just a couple people, without a permit. You can't do a lot of things if you don't have a permit. But I mean, it makes sense. It's just funny to be like, oh, we're shooting in New York, and it's like, well, it's really hard and very annoying to do that. I guess one of the things about NYU is that you have like the professors are pretty good, but I always thought that I wasn't actually that thoroughly impressed by a lot of the professors. There's sometimes where it's just like these guys, they don't, they're not. They don't want to be here. It's like what I got. As a feeling from some of the professors. Some of the professors were great, but it was just like always like a hit or miss.
Wow.
And I thought that was across the board, like not just in like the film school. I don't know that I have just problems with the university system. But
with authority, maybe.
Well, yeah, I guess I do have problems with authority, but no, it's not about like this authority. It's just like I think that the way that colleges are structured and universities are structured is strange. Just like like having like PhDs be the ones that are like teaching everybody, and it's like nobody, like they don't want to be here. They just want to like be doing their research or things like that. They don't want to teach kids.
Wow.
But they have to teach kids, and then you just hire grad students to teach everybody. Anyways, this has nothing to do with film, really. It was something that did happen.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Because film school, it obviously prepared you in some ways, and didn't necessarily prepare you in all ways. Were you one of the students who left with a finished film?
I guess technically, I didn't. I mean, I had, I didn't like my senior thesis. I didn't actually finish doing it. I thought that it was okay. I was trying to do something with it that was not. I don't think I fully executed it, and it was So. I wanted to like revisit it, but I guess it was one of those things that it was like I could spend time trying to re-edit this,
right,
make it okay, but I didn't. So yeah, yeah.
When you left film school, what was your thinking process? Did I don't think you ever thought, oh, I want to go to LA and work in the studio system. What were you thinking that you were going to do next?
Well, I guess the best piece of advice that I received, I think, was from like my producing professor, and he was like, if you're the two things that you should do are either go and work in a work at a casting agency, or at one of the agencies in the mailroom, or go and like make your own movie, like straight out of college. Those are like the two things, like two best ways to approach what you're gonna leaving college. And working at an agency and like you're assistant to people, you have to be very organized. You're just doing grunt work and running around all the time. And I was like, I don't think that I'm gonna be any good at that. I think I'm gonna be pretty bad. So yeah, I mean, I don't really like authority. I don't really like people having authority over me, and then I'm not organized. So I thought that I wasn't really going to be able to pull that off.
Right.
I mean, granted, I didn't really try, but so then it was like, well, I guess, the next thing I have to do, if I'm not going to do that, is make a movie. But I definitely like considered it. I going down, going down to LA and doing that. But for one, I haven't done it yet.
I remember the first time that I spoke to you very, very well. And I know you were clear that you wanted to make a feature film. I was very clear that you had the skills. Do you happen to remember the film that you pitched to me that you were thinking about making?
What do I remember about it, or?
Do you remember the film you originally pitched?
Yeah, I remember the film. I mean, I had the whole script written. So yeah, I remember it. What about it?
I just wonder if you remembered the log line of that film, or
Oh, was it like a kid living in I forgot what the log line was. I mean, it was a funny story. It's well, a kid has to decide whether or not he's going to live with his friends or move to Seattle with his parents. That was the whole idea. That
was the pitch. That was the pitch. That's right.
Yeah. I mean, I always thought I actually still like the script. But you know that I can not good at like getting log lines, but it's a very succinct way of this is actually like the conflict that's in the movie. Like, is he going to move in with his parents or with his friend with his friends?
Is he going to move in with his parents? And all I remember is you saying that, and I went, absolutely not.
Uh,
And you said, oh, and then you pitched Homestead. And
um,
so could you tell everybody what Homestead is? What that
um, yeah. Well, I guess Homestead is a Western horror or thriller, like about a family of homesteaders living out in the middle of nowhere, and a gang of outlaws comes and takes them captive. Um, yeah, I never really figured out the full
line.
but yeah, no, I hate doing I hate log lines. But yeah, there's some homesteaders and then some people that come and try to kill them, and then huh?
Some bad people come,
Yeah, bad people. Huh?
and everybody dies,
Everybody dies. Everybody does die. That's the best way to end things, is if everybody dies.
except for one.
Oh no, there's two,
Two. Who's
yeah, with two kids.
the two kids? Oh, I thought
Yeah.
only one kid. I thought
No.
I only remembered one kid. Okay,
No,
so the
no.
two kids in the
Yeah.
family actually survive the
Mhm.
the onslaught by
Yeah,
by the bad guys.
because you can't kill children, so.
Well, no, I guess not. I guess not. And what is Virgilio wrote in the thing, spoiler
Spoiler alert.
the movie for everybody now. So, what was the process? Let's just say, what was the process that you went through to get the film made?
What was the process to get the film made?
You wrote the script real fast.
Yeah, wrote the script. Uh, and then just sat on it for a little while, not knowing what to do next. Yeah, because I had the script, and then we had some like some money from my parents.
That was actually a really big step, was when you actually started asking people for money.
Yeah,
I think that was not something that you had necessarily thought about, when you were in film school or whatever. I'm going to be going out and finding the money for my films.
yeah. I mean, so once that was happening, it's like now we have some money, and then we kind of started looking for locations and casting, and just sort of acting like everything was cool, and that we had, that we had the money and everything, and yeah, so we basically, just started like putting out, things on Backstage, and auditioning people. We got a lot of responses. So
Why do you think you got so many responses, actually? Why do you think you did so well with your casting notices?
well, I mean, I honestly don't know how much, how often people get responses. But I think for one, it's I mean, there's not that many. We were like specifically sort of looking in the Bay Area. I mean, and in LA, but there's not that many big feature films that shoot in the Bay Area. And so
Right.
I think everyone just kind of applies to stuff. I mean, I think it sounds like relatively
Yeah.
interesting. Like everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I want to be in a Western." I think that has a big thing to do with it. It's like, of course. I mean, if I like saw a Western, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I totally want to be in a Western." That's just how I would think about it. So I don't think it's much deeper than that. I guess it sounds like an interesting story to people, but um, Yeah, that was basically yeah, we got quite a few responses. I mean, I know that like I think we had, around like 100 auditions or so per person. And I don't think that was like the submissions or something that people were sending in. Or like the I think that like actual things that like people acted for. I forget. But it was when we actually asked for self tapes. But yeah, we had a lot. It was a lot to go through. I mean, it's I don't know how casting directors go through that much stuff because I mean this was just like a tiny little movie. I mean, they're going through like thousands of people, but
So when you put those casting notices out, did you say very clearly this is the date we're going to begin production and this is the budget and this is how much you're going to get paid? Did people know that before they applied?
yeah, we did. We put day rate on there, and we put the general time because we still didn't have a time that we're going to be shooting, but we just like put some dates or put like a period of time, like
Yeah.
is in, like February to March or something is what we
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
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 But yeah, we didn't have anything specific. So
Yes. And then I think one of the things that was really interesting was when you were one of the people who contacted you to act in the film was Jamie Bernadette.
yeah, yeah.
So
Um,
what was important about that? Why was it important that you got I don't think anybody particularly knows who Jamie Bernadette is,
uh,
but you figured that it was a significant addition to the film.
so like, how did that go down?
Yeah.
Um, uh, yeah, well, she sent us a message, and uh, saying like, I only accept like take I'm like offer only, something.
Offer, no audition. Right,
Yeah,
no audition.
yeah. And then um she had like this is what stuff I'm in, so I thought that like looked interesting. It's like, oh, like if she's offer only, she sounds like a bigger actress than everybody else, and kind of ironic way to go about differentiating yourself by being like, I'm not gonna audition. But it
Right.
was like, yeah, it's like I guess she's like been in more movies than most of these people on backstage, or like any other people that we've seen on backstage. Most people are kind of like hobbyist actors that we've been going through. um
Huh.
and so we yeah, we just went on, like we messaged her and we started talking, and we had got along well. And so basically she was um kind of said, oh hey, we like I can like I have like accent. She said that she'd probably get us money for the movie as well. She could be like a executive producer on it, and that she had this great actress to play the little girl in the movie, Irene, and that was awesome. That was probably like the best find that we got. Was getting Betsy Sly to play Irene, and then yeah, so she just I mean basically after that it was like, oh, we have like a real actress in it. And there was actually this one other guy, Greg Creek, who Betsy just happened to know, who'd been auditioning for one of the other roles. And so we like brought Greg Creek on. We were going to do it anyways, but it was just sort of like even more solidly we were going to have Greg Creek because Jamie knew him, and he also knew Betsy Sly. It was very strange how small of a world
Really,
our backstage casting was. Yeah.
really strange because so Jamie brought Betsy, and then Betsy, I suppose, recommended Greg because they had all worked together before.
No, well, like Greg had just applied on her backstage, but then it was like, oh, like Jamie mentioned Greg Creek, and we're like, wait, Greg Creek? Oh, we're like, he's one of the two people we're considering for Robert, So that was, yeah, that's how that happened.
Yeah, it's just
Um,
strange how small the world can possibly be. That all of that, and why was it so important to you that when Jamie recommended Betsy, why was that so important to you?
Oh, well, because it was really hard to find an Irene. You know, there's not that many good child actors out there, you know, and they're pretty hard to find. And Irene's basically like the main character of the movie, so she's, you know, a pretty important person to get right. And it's kind of tough because we were sifting through girls who were kind of like middling, you know. They were okay, you know. There was nobody that was like, it wasn't like everyone was like, oh my god, you know, throw them out the window, you know. They were pretty good, and or they were okay. And but it was like, it's clearly like not like exact like fully to like what we want. But it was the type of thing that it was like, are we going to find somebody, you know, that would be good enough? And so there was some sense that it was a little tempting to go with one of these other people. But we wouldn't have been happy about it. So but then finding Betsy, it's like, oh my god, Betsy's so great. It was really yeah.
The problem with the Irene character is she's 13, I think.
Yeah.
She's 13, but she's got to end up being the hero who survives
Yeah.
the the horror of what happens to the family. So she's got to really be able to act, but she's got to be 13,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
was the creative challenge that you managed to write into your script.
Yeah, I know. It was stupid. I don't know why I made so many I like decisions of like, why would you decide to make it like this? You know, you didn't need to do that.
How about this one? Why would you decide to set it in the 1890s?
Oh, it's because I don't know. I mean, I just like, you know, everyone always asks me like, oh, you know, you must really like westerns, and it's like, I like westerns, but like more than like anything, I like the aesthetic of westerns.
Yes.
You know, I haven't seen. I'm not like a movie buff who's seen like all the westerns ever. It's just like, oh wow, I just like the way they look. And so I think more than anything that that's what had to do with it. I mean, really, what happened is I watched The Green Room,
Oh yeah.
and I was like, oh wow, you know, like they do such a good job setting up like how
Yes.
they're in the middle of nowhere, and they're stuck inside this room, and the cops aren't going to come, you know, and they're, you know, they set up all these little pieces, and it was like, oh, okay, this is scary now that there's nothing there. Um, uh, and I was like in that time like really interested in like the idea of like the mechanics of like like problems in a movie, just like what is the, you know, like the mechanics of this being very much like, how are we going to set up the, you know, this situation. And so I anyways, um I went to or I watched it, and I was like, I could, you know, what would be a way to make a movie like this where there's people trapped inside a room and there's nobody to come? And I was like, well, obviously being in a house in the West is a perfect place for that, you know, like that's scary. And so that's where like the idea had originally come from.
Right.
Was making like, how can you make the Green Room in the West, I guess.
Yes.
Um,
So
that was real.
what did you do to, because obviously when you're making a real micro budget movie, having it be a period piece, it's funny because two of my clients have made period pieces. Kevin Pontucci made the Yellow Wallpaper set in the 1890s.
Mhm.
So what did you do? You mentioned earlier about locations. So what did you do to start to create that look, that aesthetic that you like so much?
Um, well, we had, I guess we like put together like some like little lookbooks, but it was more uh like it wasn't that complicated. There's only like two, you know, real sets. That wasn't too hard. I mean, I guess I had my you know, I had my mom do costumes. She was great at costume design.
Yes, does
So
general. That's her career, right? Her career.
Yeah, she did fashion. She doesn't do it anymore, or like at least right now. But anyway, she done but she'd done costume design actually, like in all the plays in high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so it's really interesting to kind of like because she actually had like a full process for like specifically costume designing,
Oh, okay.
versus like doing like fashion design, which is it's a bit more just like you're doing your stuff, but this is like we're like collaborative with me, and so that was interesting. But that was actually great. It was so fun to like go back and forth with her on like little choices, like shopping for boots on eBay and like what are we getting. Yeah, so yeah, those are the first sort of bits, was the getting the costumes together, and then getting the set together, pieces for the set, kind of going to Goodwill or Salvation Army, picking up old looking things that we could put in the house. I'd specifically I'd imagined this taking place in like a one-room house, because there's no way that I'm gonna deal with more than one room. That's the most rooms I can deal with. So which we ended up building in my garage, is where we put it. Yeah, but that was kind of the process at the beginning. Just like gathering stuff together, and then we actually, when we started building the set in my garage, is when I guess the look fully started coming together.
Did you always know you were going to build the set in your garage?
No, I didn't.
Did you? Yeah, yeah.
No, originally gonna build the set, gonna have these big panels, just like put it on flats and then move it into a studio, and shoot in the studio. That was the whole idea. I guess it kind of entertained the idea of like building a house, but it's like that's not gonna work. To build a whole house somewhere. I could have done it. I mean, in the end, it was probably like it was a similar amount of wood that we used to build the interior and the exterior. But yeah, I did not originally plan on shooting in the garage. Had these panels that I was like gonna put together, that we had horizontal wood slats that were supposed to sort of like interlock together so that they'd be offset, and it was like gonna be really hard to like move all these flats into a set. I think it's really funny that I needed to have these interlocking panels like that were horizontal, because that actually isn't very period. It's not, I mean, like, it did happen. It's not really like the most efficient way to build a house, but whatever. I thought it was funny that I was like, wait, why did you could have done it, vertical, but I was like, no, we're not doing vertical slats. That was not something we were going to do. So anyways, I had this really hard problem. Never mind, I'm not going to get into it, but we were going to do it. We were going to build flats with wood on it, and we are going to do it in a studio. There are tons of problems with that. Essentially, it came down to, I thought I was going to get the studio for free. And then this guy's like, oh no, it's $1,000 a day or something. It's like, okay, well, we can't do that. I thought it was maybe like he could like bring it down to 200 or something, but originally he said free. So I was like, oh my God, that's great. And then my DP was up here, and she just like saw my garage, and she's like, why don't we put it in here? And I was like, my first reaction was like, I was like, no, we can't do that. And then, like looked at it longer, and it's like, I guess this does work. This can work. It's just large enough. So God, that was terrible. We had to clear out the garage and then, put it in, and it took a long time. We're still just the garage is still a mess right now. But
That was
yeah,
really,
that
that was pretty smart. I mean, the thing is, with the small budget that you were working with, obviously, if somebody suddenly announces $1,000 a day on a 14-day shoot, then you didn't have that extra money. And why would you
yeah,
spend on that anyway?
yeah, yeah, and it was I mean, honestly, like it wouldn't have I mean, I wonder how, building the set, the way that I was planning on, I don't think that would have worked. I would have had to do something different. And oh, it would have been such chaos because we would have had to like move in the set, like a day or two prior, and then dress the set and make sure everything's secure. And then, of course, the first time COVID happened, we didn't have like we would have had to take the set down. And I don't know what we would have done with the set. I think we probably, I actually like do imagine that if we'd had the set, we would have thrown it away, and that would have been the end of the movie. Yeah.
So you've got your costumes, you've got your set, you've got your garage, you've got your other location all set. You start production, and what happened?
Um, well, everything was running, fine, I guess. It was smooth. It was like pretty scary, like being like first time director, I guess. And but like things were moving. And then we yeah, it was okay. And like we got to the fourth day, and anyways, one of the lead actors is groping, the makeup people. We fired him, and then and that was like really bad. Yeah. We fought. Well, when we fired the lead actor, yeah, huh?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Oh, we fired. And it was like,
You had a meet.
huh?
That's a big thing to have to deal with on a set.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was the fourth day in. And yeah, so we fired him, and then it was like, oh crap, like what are we gonna do? We don't have like we need to replace him. We need to reshoot all the things we've done with him. We had like we were 4 days in. It's like I guess we can like reshoot stuff. But anyways, the next day the COVID lockdown, like the stay-at-home order, got put in place, and so we couldn't really do anything. So we sent everybody home. Like I guess that was really the end of it. Or like now we just had to like go back and reshoot it, but much later. But that would have been terrible.
How did you manage to? I mean, I can't imagine what a director does when they have to fire their lead actor and they get shut down by COVID. I mean, how did you survive that? I don't know. How did you do that?
I mean, it was I think like a blessing in disguise. It was I mean, it was bad, and it was like, oh crap. But there were I was really scared about what it was going to look like when we got to the exteriors. We had our exterior set, but it was like halfway built, and it was like, okay, it's like got to get finished. And it would have been really tough. I think we kind of jumped in head first without checking to see how deep the water was. And so I was like kind of grateful. Obviously, like I was sad. It was like, oh crap, like how is this gonna get how am I gonna get to the next how are we gonna do this again? But it was like that it could have just been worse later on. We might not have been like prepared enough. So it was nice to be able to be like to take it slow again. But yeah.
No, I think I think that your attitude and your being able to come out of that was just really incredible, and that you were able to. No, it's true. I mean, to be able to have your film shut down for two major reasons, on day 4, day 5, and just make the decision that that could be a positive thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that takes some grit to me. That takes some real grit, So what happened? What eventually happened? We were all stuck at home, for however many months we couldn't go out, and what happened next?
Geez. Well, what happened was, God, it was pretty bad. Um, uh, well, I got in my head, that what this movie needed was zombies. And I actually, I mean, to some extent, I still stand by that idea. But I spent a really long time, and it was a waste of time. But I spent a really long time. It was a waste of time in the end. Um, uh, Rewriting the script to fit zombies into it, and it actually worked pretty well. The uh, but essentially, it was like I mean, that summer was mostly like me like checking the script and like putting zombies in it again, or then like moving around. Like, do I need zombies? Like, how much are zombies adding to this? And then taking out zombies. I had like 4 different versions of the script at one point that like had varying levels of zombies and ideas, and it was so bad. I got like way into like too into my head. One of the things that I hated about writing this script is that this whole, and that's something I didn't anticipate, was this whole movie like happens, like takes place over one night in like relatively, it's relatively like, real time. Obviously it's not real time, just because like an hour and a half, but everything is like not much can change between scenes,
Yeah.
in terms of like character situations or whatever, like even like where people are located. Um, uh, you know, Things have to sort of like make sense. And so it was this like I spent way too much time just you know, like worried about like the geography. I like the geography of the situation. Like, okay, where is everybody? Like, where's the knife? What's going on over here? How can we, like, is this like, does this timing work out? Is this gonna go? And I I think I spent, but that was like the real problem with like rewriting it too, is because like I had this whole thing that like had meshed and like worked together, and then once you start picking those pieces apart, everything else falls apart. And
Yes.
then the worst thing is like when you look at it and you're like, wait, did it ever fit together? Does this? And at a certain point, I just kind of had to be like, I don't care as much. And one of my concerns going through and editing is that just like do all of these things that I said in my head when I was writing it, do they work out? Does this feel natural?
You remember one day you mentioned zombies to me, and I think my attitude was kind of like la 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 la.
Yeah. No, the thing is, like, zombies worked in the movie. I don't think that it was out of left field.
No.
But yeah, I mean, it was out of left field, but it wasn't, wasn't the, wasn't like this is ruining the movie. I don't think it made it into, more of a joke, really. You could do zombies seriously, and it wasn't, well, whatever. But essentially, like, my producer was like, we can't do zombies, so we didn't go with zombies. And it would have been a whole deal going with zombies. But yeah, it did work. It did work.
So you finally regrouped, you got everybody back on set. What date was that you?
I was October 4th.
Okay.
October 4th is when we started up again.
Yeah.
Um
And how did you, not by then, everybody in the world knows about COVID and all of that stuff. How did you deal with all of that?
um well, we had a,
Were people scared? I mean, were people, did they want to come or were they scared to come?
yeah, that's the thing, is actually like everybody wanted to come. Everybody was very excited. Nobody was scared. And that concerned me because I was like, I'm scared. It was weird because I was like, I was the most cautious, I feel,
Uh-huh.
about people. And it was um yeah, like a lot of the people were just like, like, let's get a movie made, and they wanted to get back into it. So everyone was excited to come back, and nobody was like, no, I'm not comfortable with that. Which, yeah, it was weird. When like we didn't have to recast anybody because someone didn't want to come back. I mean, ultimately, like everybody's like working actors, and they want work, and they want to be acting. So, and everything got put on hold. So nobody was like, yeah, nobody was really like hesitant to do it. The way we did it is, we just had people take a COVID test before they came, and the people who could drive would drive, and the people who couldn't drive didn't, or they flew, and then we just had everybody kind of like stay in one, just like not leave their, Airbnbs, and then,
You created a pod basically for everybody on the film.
yeah, and then we didn't have anybody, and then we had tests like the second, after the first week, and then after that we were doing like exteriors, and so it was kind of like a bit more relaxed since we were shooting exteriors. There wasn't, a bit safer, and we've all been with each other for a while, so it wasn't like nobody was gonna have COVID at that point. We're not really going place to place. But I mean, yeah, like how do we do it? I think we were, kind of irresponsible. I don't. It's not. Like what we had was not like by any means like not a foolproof plan. I guess no plan's foolproof, but it was very relaxed in some respects. I mean, everyone wore masks, obviously.
Yeah.
We would eat outside. But it's the type of thing that it's like, even like doing all of that stuff, like if one person had COVID, like regardless of whether we're wearing masks or anything, we're probably going to shut down. And so we were just lucky that nobody got COVID.
Yeah.
No.
So I've kind of run out of time. I keep asking for you to tell all these stories, and I want to open it up for questions. But so you made it through with that big gap. Did you have time to raise more money? Did you have to raise more money? How did you deal with that, with the financial of having lost your first 4 days?
Yeah, we did. We did have to raise a lot more money because we'd had like everybody come and everybody leave, and we paid everybody. It was more expensive than we thought, but yeah, we did have to. But we raised some money on Kickstarter, is what we did, and some more like friends and family. But yeah, we did take that time to go look for more money. Which was, that was really helpful.
And so, where is the film now?
Well, the film is on 4 hard drives, scattered about the country, and yeah, I mean it's on my hard drives and in a state of being edited. I haven't worked on it a whole lot, but things are coming together now. So it's I mean it's mostly raw footage right now, and yeah, I've been just starting to edit now, really. But yeah, so that's the state it's in. I'd like to get it done. Well, I definitely want to get it done within like this next year. It'd be cool to get done before that. We'll just have to see. I think that I might not be the person to edit it, just because it's like very close to me. And so it might not be the best idea for me to be doing it, but that's the way it is now. I'd like to get a rough cut done and then hand it to somebody else.
And yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, so Ehrland, thank you so much. Let's see if anybody has any questions. Everyone's going to go shy on me oh, Diane, yay.
Hi, good morning. Absolutely wonderful. And yeah, I think zombies can solve almost any problem. So personally, love the inspiration. I have a number of questions, but like, okay, I'm interested in you have your producer that you're working with. I mean, I love how many roles you all took on the film. So maybe talking about that, but also too, I'm in a situation where I'm looking at editing the film that I'm working on. And because it's my story, it's feeling like, it's way too close. So how are you envisioning solving that problem if obviously you right now are the primary editor?
I mean, I don't know exactly how to solve that problem.
I'm just curious about your what
Yeah.
you're envisioning doing on this.
I mean, I think right now what I've been going through is like just kind of like putting little pieces together and not caring about how it looks, really. Just being like kind of getting angry at it in a sense and just like get it done. You know, just put it on here. You know, it's like I don't, you know, it's like I'm not gonna like focus like so much on like any one piece. So then the piece comes together, or so that it's just there. And then like if when I look at it again, it can just be like, oh well, like I didn't actually try making this, but like here's like what the scene basically looks like. I have no idea actually if that is a correct way to approach this. I don't know if this is healthy. I think it might become where it's just like, oh, like I'll look at it and just be like, Jesus, why did you do that? Like this is you know, it just like looks bad now. But that's the way I'm just trying to distance myself from it and like get something finished, and then not like be too precious about wanting to make it like feel good and look good right now. Just because if I focus too much on anything, I think I'm just gonna get like, you know, just very like involved, and it'll be too involved, and I won't be able to move on.
All right. Yeah. Congratulations. It's amazing the cast that you got together, that you guys pulled together. And it just, you've got some really powerful, you know, strong people.
Yeah, I know.
And,
yeah, everyone's great.
And from what I can see from the photos that are on IMDb and IMDb Pro, it's like the aesthetic, it's working. I mean, you're pulling it off really, really well. It just, yeah.
Yeah, I was really happy with how it worked out. Like Lisa Stahl, our DP, you know, she was great. And so I was just so happy. I was like, oh wow, like it looks good, you know. It looks really good. So that was nice to have that.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Who else has a question? Is that Lisa Stahl? Is it?
No, Stoll.
Right. Yes. Right. Who else has a question? Maggie. And then Mark. Maggie, then Mark. Are you on mute? Yeah, go ahead.
Good morning. Was that your DP's first feature?
No, it was not. It was not her first feature. She's been doing this for a while.
So basically, it sounds like you surrounded yourself with people that were more advanced or had done more films than you, or no?
Yeah. That was the idea. Was to get people who were, you know, more experienced than we were, to kind of do it. It was funny because, you know, this was actually like really like the first feature film that I've been on. And so it was funny to be like, this is, you know, like my first feature film was like my, you know, my own, and that everybody else is also like way more experienced than we are. But it was intentional to get that because that was something that Joanne had suggested actually, to have a DP who has done, you know, an experienced DP, because, you know, they run a lot of the show. And so it's good to have like that piece sort of like, you know, done at least. You know, it's not like, it's like they know what they're doing, like they know how this whole thing works. And so you're not like having any growing pains really with like, oh, you know, like this kid fresh out of film school who might not have like done this whole, you know.
No, I agree. I think that's excellent advice. I'm glad you did that. Did you talk about what your total budget was, or is that something you can talk about?
I guess I don't think I should talk about that right now, actually.
That's fine.
It was, but yeah, I guess. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So but basically it was mostly friends and family.
Yeah, it was.
And no crowdfunding at all?
No, we did Kickstarter. We did do Kickstarter. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did Kickstarter. Huh?
Congratulations. I mean, that's awesome. It sounds really good, and it sounds like things are in your favor, and the limited location and everything, it sounds like it's working.
Yeah. I think that one of the things I wish that I hadn't had such a large cast in it. That was definitely a thing that it was not that was probably too much to have, and got to a lot of problems with just like housing people even. All
Right.
makes it.
It gets expensive. How
Yeah.
was working with Betsy, as far as, did you have to give her a lot of direction, or she's just very experienced pro, or?
No, Betsy was actually awesome, and she was amazing. And she was a very good. She took direction very well. Actually, I think like some of the maybe like the best out of the actors. She would always you just like give her like one little note, and then she take that and then do it, but always like give like a different life to it than I had expected. It's like, oh wow, like, what a great performance, Betsy. You're always giving these great performances.
Wow.
No, she was actually like very easy to work with. Some of the other actors, it's like you give them direction and they might not listen to you, or they might just like get in their own head. Betsy, on the other hand, just always seemed like very was always just like very present with everything, and always she could like switch on and off between just like Irene and just like regular old Betsy. So
I also just wanted to go back to Maggie's earlier question. Ehrland, when anybody puts you on the spot with the budget question, the answer is always under 200,000 or
okay.
300,000. You pick and you just stick with that, and that's your public.
Or under 200,000, I guess.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark, what was your question?
So I'm a little bit confused. Is the film finished or is it in post-production?
It's in post-production.
Oh, okay. Well, and the graphics look great. And, it reminds me when I was in film school, I did my first film, I learned this thing called Murphy's Law, that anything that can go wrong will go wrong. I just totally remembered that was it. And it just seems like the process is learning how to flow with that. But
yeah.
I commend your bravery.
Yeah.
If you had known what was going to happen, you never would have done it.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I've had a couple run-ins with Murphy's Law, already. So.
Does anybody else have a question? Shane, I feel as though you have a question bubbling up.
Hi, thank you for asking all your great questions. That helps funnel it. Honestly, probably more remarks than questions. Again, thank you for setting this up, Joanne, and Ehrland, congratulations on
thank you.
Film during COVID, and it does truly look great. I mean, as Diane said, the photos look gorgeous. The trailer is very compelling. I'm glad you pointed out the costumes. I do have a bit of background in fashion and in textiles, and they feel real, like lived in. Golly. Questions. I guess what it was like to maybe film on 2 sets and I guess maybe a handful of locations.
No, two locations.
2 locations?
Yep.
And then a stage or a set, if I understand, or is that?
Well, it was we had the interior of the house in my garage, and then we had the exterior of the house at a ranch down near Pinnacles National Park, and so those were our 2 locations, and then we filmed all of the exteriors out on the ranch while we were. That's where we. Yeah, that was pretty tough. Like doing it at the house had its own issues. It was a very small space, so it got really hot in there, and wasn't the best thing in the garage for COVID. But it was yeah, that was tough. We actually got the cops call on us because there was I guess somebody saw, you know, a suspicious looking cowboy walking around the street, and they called the cops. I was so scared because I thought we were going to get shut down. But then in the middle of while they were talking to us, there was a robbery at the high school. So they just got in their car and sped away. And that was it. Totally forgot. So we were fine after that.
One more thing, Ehrland. I've actually, it's something that I consider a lot. Sorry. Geography. I rarely hear, as a screenwriter, I rarely hear people reference the actual map of the story and this sort of geography. So again, I know it's not really a question, but anyways, congratulations.
Yeah. Thanks.
Shane is also making a period piece. What's the year of your piece, Shane?
1880s, 1890s.
Oh, that's the same. That's
The same.
said about mine.
It's honestly, it's a you know, deeply inspiring, and I have a background in casting, and your casting choices appear to be very solid.
Yeah.
What was it like to work with Dallas?
He was great. Yeah, Dallas is great. We only had him for like 2 days. So we had to get everything done very quickly. So that was kind of scary. It was like, crap, you know, we gotta just like get through this. So that was stressful. But Dallas, yeah, he was really nice. Nice guy. So it was funny because I think he's the most famous person I've like met, I think. And then to be in a situation where like technically like I'm the person with the power, you know, like I'm the one telling him what to do, was just very, very interesting. But yeah.
Congratulations again, and thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
You did not have a casting agent, did you?
No, we didn't.
Or just came from people responding to your backstage ads?
Yeah. Jamie Bernadette, I guess. I mean, she did some of the casting when we recast Robert. She went through his stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, they didn't. I have a feeling. I don't know, but it's happening with my other clients. But I have a feeling that there's a little sweet spot right now because of COVID and because actors are not working. That people making even movies under $200,000 are getting a higher level of actor than I think maybe they might in another year. So I feel as though it's a real incentive to go now before COVID is over, because I think there are actors looking to work that we might not normally have access to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that probably is the case.
Yeah. So, well, it's 5 after, so I want to thank you so much, Ehrland, for coming. Good luck with finishing the film. I'm so excited to see it. Send me a clip or something.
Yeah.
Something, to see it, and it's going to be great. So, but thank you everybody for coming again.
Right.
Anybody who doesn't know me, who was interested in talking to me about working with me one-on-one, we put the link in the chat to set up a time to talk. And Keith, waiting for your pitch deck.